Good evening, everybody. Welcome to episode 2 of the Blue Broad Show for 2023. I'm Terry. I've got Paul Sebastiani with me, and tonight's going to be a lot of fun. Paolo, welcome, mate.
Hello, mate. How you going?
I'm good. I'm
Good to
excited
hear.
to be here. This is always an energy booster.
Yes. It's some interesting numbers coming up tonight as well. Jan 16. What are we now? Under 2 months away. It's starting to creep up. I think you and I and Mars and Rocco sort of for the last maybe 2 months we've just completely switched off. If that makes sense. I think we're still there, but we're not quite. We haven't been caught hook, line, and sinker yet with season 2023. But I think I'm slowly starting to swim towards the bait. So I found some. I've been doing some funny things at SEN the last couple of weeks, just finding all the audio commentary from our 2022 games and just listening back to it. And yeah, let's just say the excitement's starting to creep in again. We're getting sucked in again.
I had my first little taste of it. Well, actually, it was last week. Pommy, you know what Pommy's like. Pommy starts
Yeah.
talking and he just gets you. He just gets you in a mood. And I think once you start doing player previews, it starts becoming a what if, and if he could, and if he does, and then you start thinking, all right, well, if this happens, and if he's fit, and if he plays 22 games, then, gee, we're we're in a good spot. And then I think also open training on Wednesday, open training next week, see a few more stories, and see what else comes up. And then before you know it, mate, we are on for young and old.
Yes, we are, and Joey and the Almost Blues Brothers boys doing the Twitter countdown as well, which has been fun to follow. So no, it's good. It's good. There's a sense of genuine optimism coming into this season too. So, and the expectations have been raised. I don't know how much, but we'll find out when the footy starts. So it's nice to know that the majority of us are expecting at the bare minimum finals, which is what we should have been expecting, for the last sort of 2 to 3 years. But, it's better late than never, I guess.
Yes, correct. Yeah, absolutely. I dare say finals is not on the agenda now for absolutely everybody. Then I don't know if it ever will be.
No, it's a fair point. It's definitely a fair point. It's punching us in the face. It literally did last year.
Sure did. Welcome to Mighty Ard, who's just become a member of the channel. Thank you very much. And thank you very much to all of the members of the channel. Appreciate your continued support. It's been a really cool ride with you all. So looking forward to seeing what we're going to bring you all this year from a content perspective. Who we got here? Mighty Blue 7. He's always in here. He's always around.
Yes,
Jay, Gox, Christian, Chris Beach. You can always rely on Chris Beach to be here.
Yeah, he's always there.
Josh White, my man.
Hello, Josh.
Uga would be the number one ticket holder for fanship on the channel. There's no doubt about that.
I think so.
We got Paul, we got Peter. So tonight, guys, we're going to talk a bit about just little general bits and pieces, and then we're going to get stuck into the next batch of players. We're going to go from Matt Kennedy all the way through to Tom De Koning. Something tells me that the Tom De Koning preview will be a little bit longer than the others. I don't know why. I think of all the DMs I get, Tom De Koning seems to be at the top of the list of the topics. So we'll encourage all of you in the audience to contribute as we start talking about these players and just set some expectations and just get some thoughts about where they're at and what's coming for them. But before we do that, Polo, what's on your mind regarding the club? Anything in particular, news-wise? Quiet.
Not a hell of a lot. I think I caught up with a couple of mates the other night who are both big Carlton boys, and sort of discussing the injuries and the fitness of the list. And if you think about it, like there's not from what I'm looking at, like everyone's. I mean, aside from Walshy, I don't think the Cottrell stress foot thing is anything to be really too concerned about yet. I doubt it. I don't think there's any. I don't think that's going to affect his season at all. Not from what we're hearing. I don't think. But everyone is, aside from Walshy, everyone's ready to fire. There's nothing to speak of. Touch wood, but there's nothing. Hewitt is on track. Pitternet's on track. He's He's, from what I hear, set to play all. I think it's 3 practice games we're going to play. I don't think they're booked in yet or locked in, but from what I heard, he's ready to play all 3 games. Hewitt's on track. Marchbank seems to be on track, I believe. I'm guessing it's a modified program for him. Chera's fine. So it all seems systems go at the moment, aside from Walshy.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, correct. I think at this point in the year, those that are going to miss games or significant time, it is just Walshy. So listen,
Yeah.
let's just be grateful and count our lucky eggs for now.
Well, that's it, exactly. And I think, look, if as much as you don't want those surgeries or things like that to happen, it's best that they happen now. I know we always say it. It's best that they happen now so they can get over it and actually have an impact on the season. So just don't know how much, how serious this back injury is and how long it's going to take him to recover, how quickly or how long he can get back on the field. But we just wait and see. We have to deal with what we've got now, basically. So,
Yeah.
But other than that, I think 95% of the list is raring and ready to go.
As long as they're all available for round 1, that's all you can ask, really.
That's exactly right. And I think we said it last week or the week before that the best stability is availability. Really, it's as simple as that. So, hopefully Cottrell's all good, because I think he's an integral part to our system and depth as well. So, again, Hewitt seems on track, Pitternet on track, and away we go. McGovern and Williams too, who we'll get to. One of them we'll get to a little later, but they seem to be, touch wood, in pretty good nick.
Mm-hmm. Christian's put a little comment here around addressing the David King article about we won't go far without Walsh. Christian, I think what David King wants is for us to talk about it and for it to be a thing. I think those that really matter know that we don't just rely on Walsh for, for the success of the club this year. I'm actually curious, Paulo. I did a video last week around our most important players.
Yep.
Who do you think is our most important going into this year? As in, if you didn't have them, you feel the loss without them the most.
Oh, I was actually doing this. I was actually doing this project in the car when I was on the way back from work at, I think it was like 4 a.m. and I was listening back to the video, and when you went through the ball, I'm like, oh yeah, he's important. I'm like, oh shit, I've missed him. For me, I don't think there's one most important player, if that makes sense. But if there is, for me, it's Jacob Wiedering. I just think he's so integral to the way we set up down back, and that's, being being a lover of Italian football, Italian soccer, defense is what wins you everything, and once that is steadied and once you have that down pat, I think that's how, you build from the back up. That's how I believe, especially when the ball's in motion and the ball is in play. So I'd have him at the top of the tree. Then it's Charlie, it's Harry, it's the key position boys, basically. Had Pitternet up there, definitely. He's huge for us. Just his physicality and the ability to give our midfielders first use, which is critical. I mean, that's critical in the modern game. You need to get first use of it to gain field territory. And I think we'll see it this year, but I think one of our most important, just to free up our backline, is going to be Mitch McGovern, if he can stay. I mean, it's Mitch McGovern ... if he can stay fit with everybody. Basically, that's the answer to his name. Yeah. So it's all the key position guys, really.
Yeah, fair. Well, we'll touch on Mitch. We should probably get started onto our previews. So we'll start with Matt Kennedy. I'll let you kick us off just with general thoughts, and those of you watching at home, throw some comments in about what you think about Matt Kennedy and his prospects this year, and we'll start the chat.
This guy's a genuine gun. Like, he's a pistol, mate. He's got a beautiful set of hands. He's a beautiful kick. He's tough as nails. I mean, he's the epitome of what Voss asked for in the midfield and from a player. Really, it's do your job, do the simple things right, compete hard, beat the bloke next to you, be tougher than him. And he's the epitome of just keeping things. It's the KISS synonym. Keep it simple, stupid. He's beautiful, with aerially as well. He's got a great set of hands, and I think what was our record without him last season? Like 0-5 when he missed
0.
or something like that. Yeah. And he's so integral to the way we play, and he's a bull in that midfield. Mars and I, we call him the Wilson car park because he's built like one. He's a big, big boy. So his loss last season was really, really, it was really felt within the midfield. So, but I love watching him play. He's one of my favourite players. I think he's a jet.
There's certain players that have stories behind their journey to playing that really, I think you need as many of them as possible. I think Kennedy's story is definitely one of them.
Yep.
There's been players come and go at this club. They've had short spans. They've been highly touted players that didn't make it. They've been lowly touted players that made it. This guy, I think last year, or maybe 2021, at the end of 2021, maybe that was the real penny drop moment for him, because it was just getting to a point where we just weren't sure he wasn't impacting enough. There were knocks on him. New regime last year. He really elevated himself. I remember doing the player tier list, which I'm going to update that for the current list in the coming weeks. And I remember having him, I think he was at a C grade. I'd almost say he's in our top tier of players now.
Oh, easily. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Easily. Yeah. And I think you can't underestimate his physicality. And the one thing that he does is he brings his teammates into the game with his body use around the stoppage as well, the blocking, the shepherding. And he's another one that gets first hand to the football as well. He's a beautiful kick for goal too. Oh, you'd back him with your life in front of the big sticks. Sensational set shot too, and that's something that he can add to his game as well. He's one of those players who can, we say rest up forward, but he can be slung up there and he can take a mark, kick a goal, and he's a hard bugger. He's a tackling midfielder too, which is what we need. So. He's also got a great head of hair as well from Paul Lear. He does. So no, he's an integral part to our system, and we saw in the back end of last year how much we missed his impact in the midfield.
Yeah,
walk up start.
Walk up in the 22. Curious from Luca, does he have another level to go to? I don't know if we can...
Yeah, I think he does. Definitely. Yeah.
I think so. But I mean, for me, as long as he's consistently producing what he gave us in 22, I think that's his role. And I think he performed it, to a really high level.
No, I agree. I think if he can stay consistent, there's no reason why why we can't do what we did in the midfield in the early part of last year. But he doesn't have to go to another level, but I'm certain he can. Because his projection is definitely going that way. He exploded last season. So, even if he brings what he did last season and doesn't go to, his numbers don't elevate to another level, I don't think there's an issue.
Yeah. No, I think there's a consensus that Kennedy's in the best 22 come round one. So easy one. This is an interesting one here. Lachie Fogarty. There's a few players on this list where when I bring them up and I talk about them, I just don't know. And he's one of them.
I think he's a depth player, clearly. And he was actually all right in the reserves last season. Yeah. They slung him on the ball, I think, in the second half of the season, and he actually did pretty well. So I think coming into this preseason, he had I don't know what type of niggle it was. It might have been a little bit of a back niggle. I don't know. Don't hold me to that. But I know he was late into it all, if that makes sense. So just keep an eye out for that. But look, when he came into the side last year against the Bulldogs in round 2 for Jack Martin, I actually thought he was okay. So, I mean, he's not a player that I don't think he's a player that's going to be pushing for a spot in the starting 22 when everyone's sort of fit and firing at the start of the season. But if it gets to the point where we need to go to bare bones, I think he's a player that can come in, maybe get 10 to 15 touches and maybe plug a hole for the time being. So I see him as purely a depth and a squad play. But you need players like that. 100%. Teams that go on and win flags need to have players like this in their team. And ultimately, they're probably going to find opportunity at another club. And they know their contracts are short term if they do re-sign. So, yeah, he's at best a depth player for me. But I wouldn't have any issue if he had to come into the side if it was a break in case of emergency type situation.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Yeah, I think depth players like him in the past have given me a bit of a, You know, if they
Yeah.
have to play, I'm worried that, you know,
Yeah.
we're just not going to get the job done. But I don't feel that because I know he's got something there, but I'm just curious about like where his career goes from here. Because I know he's got a little something in him. I remember his first few
Yeah.
games for us were
Oh,
high
yeah.
level in the way that he attacked the ball, his intensity's there. I mean, we haven't locked in this next layer of a forward, this Jack Martin, Josh Honey mid-side. We haven't locked that in yet. No one's really grabbed that yet. I don't know if he's that though. I know he had some stints on the ball at Geelong and in our reserves as well. He's a really curious one. Like I put him right now in the rest. Like there's the best
Yeah.
22,
Yeah. Yeah.
there's the 23 to 30, and then there's kind of like the rest. I find him in that rest category, but I think he's got more to offer than what he's given us.
And that's okay putting him in that category. It doesn't mean that you're not important. Don't ever forget that. I was actually watching, and I was sending you some video clips of the All or Nothing documentary with Arsenal, and there was a great moment, and he's actually playing some brilliant football at the moment for the Arsenal. Eddie Nketiah.
Mm-hmm.
There's a little bit of vision of him. This was last season for Arsenal. Him and a young midfielder called Sambi Lokonga were at a lunch table together at Arsenal's training facility, and Lokonga had missed out on games. He'd been left out of the squad, and so had Eddie Nketiah. And Eddie asked him, he's like, "What's wrong, man? Like, are you okay? Like, what's happening?" He goes, I was happy when I was in the squad. And Eddie Nketiah basically said to him, he's like, "Mate," he goes, "don't feel sorry for yourself." He's like, basically, what the F? He goes, "Mate, you don't know when your opportunity is going to come." He goes, "Don't be like that." He goes, "You're here to play your role." He goes, "If you're not in the squad, don't feel sorry for yourself. Be happy." He goes, "Work hard. You don't know when your opportunity is going to come." And that should be the scenario for everyone who doesn't make the round one squad. You don't know when your opportunity is going to arise. Someone may go down. Someone's form may dip. You've got to be ready. You've got to be ready. And he has to be one of those players like that. This is a test. Players like this, it's a test of mentality.
Yeah.
Are you going to feel sorry for yourself? Are you going to be in the dumps? Or are you going to be up and about and on your toes for when your opportunity arises? That's the big one.
Yeah, couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
Could not agree more on that. He's in a bit of a holding pattern, it seems, and he's just got to work his way through it.
And that's okay. That's okay.
Yeah. All right. Next up, the big boy. We've got some big boys coming up now. Gripendaki, goodness me. What do you say to a Brownlow medalist about what you want to see from him in a season?
Just keep doing what you're doing, son.
Yeah.
Keep doing what you're doing. Raise the standard as the captain, because you've got to be, as a team. This is the thing for him. Individually, he can't do any more as from an output point of view. I mean, what more can you ask him to do? He got into the goals last season. He won the Brownlow medal. But the thing for him is collecting the team together and making sure the standard of the team rises, because at the end of the day, it stops with him and the coach, and that's going to be his next target. For him, he needs to tick off not just finals, but he also needs to tick off, being the bloke who's going to be the next fella to lead us to a premiership. And that's what he needs to start understanding too. I hope he does. And I hope he starts coming out and putting it into the public ether. But that's the next step for him. How can he raise the standard of the collective team? That's his next goal coming into 2023. Because as I said, individually, you can't really ask for much more. And I think he'll look back on his career if he goes through it and doesn't hold up a flag or two, and he'll go back and think, you know what, that Brownlow medal, as great as it was, there's still a little bit of, there's probably a big part in my heart that's missing for this club. So that's the big goal for him, getting us into premiership contention.
Yeah. I mean, we rely, I think throughout the year we saw the leadership question was raised a bit, and I think he took a major step forward in his leadership and just getting serious with everything on the field. And I was actually watching a video yesterday of Kobe Bryant, and he was talking about being driven in a game by the fear of failing or missing a shot, or the thirst for winning. And I think as fans, we're all driven by that thirst for winning. Where we've sat in the doldrums for so long. And Kobe went on to say, like, if you focus too much on either of them, it takes your focus away from the actual moment and staying engaged. I feel like it's funny because Cripps is a very combative player at his best. He's a real forceful player. He, for me, this year, one thing I would I would say where he can really improve himself more than where he is right now. And I know he's a great player, but I think his ability to be calm in moments. I think at times he just wants it so badly. And
Yeah,
you could tell he wants it so badly that he's fixated on this play or that play or doing it his way. I think as he enters this final third, we'll call it, of his career, I think everything, hopefully, my idea is that everything starts slowing down. He gets a bit more experience in these big games. He becomes a bit more of a calming force than what he is now. And then he can balance between being this brute and then also being this calm and composed player.
Yeah, it's actually a great way of looking at it. And I think it's for him now as well. I think the words Pommy and I always use are controlled aggression. That's your best friend in those type of moments. So, and I think you saw it at the end of not to bring it up again, that round 23 game against Collingwood, when we went down in the final moments. There was a passage of play at half forward where, and he's always going to do this, where he tried to take on 2-3 Collingwood players because he knew the moment was getting away and it had to rest on him, and he got tackled holding the ball. So it's those moments there where you need your leaders to step up and just take that extra little bit of time to steady themselves as well. So, and that's probably a part of his game that he'll continue to learn too. Or maybe maybe it won't. Maybe it's already just embedded in him that he's just going to be that type of player, and we need others to step up to the mark in that regard too. So, again, from my perspective, to finalise Cripper, just keep on keeping on. We don't need you to change too much. Maybe it's just chipping away at the edges of composure in big moments. I think that's a big case for all our leaders out on the field, not just him. And that's basically what sets you apart from the rest. And from a team perspective, he just needs to continue lifting the standards and making sure that not just all 22 on the field, but everyone in that squad is collectively improving its standard. It rests on him and the coaches.
Yeah, he's one of they all have to lift the standards, but I think there's generals within each line of the field. And I think what I'd love to, I don't know if this is even important. I'd love to see him grab a player or just show some demonstrative behavior. With his own and just pull a player in. I'd love to see it,
Yeah, I think that's what the best teams over the last handful of years have done. And, you've seen it with a lot of not just players, but coaches as well. So, there's a time and place for that. There's always a time and place for that. And it does come from a place of we want to get better, and it does come from a place of love for the club. So maybe we'll see more of it in 2023. I hope it gets to a point where we don't have to see that, but if we do and it has to come out, well, then so be it.
Yeah. I mean, there's a layer of there's certain players who have earned that trust now.
Yeah.
I think Cripps is certainly one of them.
I'm not against that demonstrative type of behavior if it gets the best
wrong. Nothing wrong with holding people to account and holding the standards to account.
No. Just ask Mikel Arteta how it's going for the Arsenal.
Well, that's true. Stephen, thank you very much for the 31. Says, thanks, gents, for the content. Small contribution to buy you and Paolo a latte and maybe a pint for Pommy. All right, thanks, mate. We'll certainly take you up on that. What else with Cripps? I don't think there's much else to say. He's obviously he got married.
He did get hey.
So,
let me tell you
congratulations,
something, mate. Let me tell you something. When sports stars get married, you got more bills to pay. You got to perform. There's always that added motivation to perform for your woman. Don't ever think that is that is a highly underestimated aspect of it. It's he's going to have a family. He's got a lovely partner now and a wife now, and don't underestimate that, because that's the next phase in his life where he's like, okay, I've got to, as much as the family's there as well, and Carlton's huge. It's got to be a performance and something that they can be proud of too. He's done that definitely, of course, up till now, but now it's about using that energy and using that positive energy to make sure that permutates throughout the team, really.
Yeah, certainly. certainly.
Big shout out to his brother as well, Dan. He was doing a bit of work for us on the overnight crowd with some racing stuff. So he's a good man. He's Dan. So shout out to Dan, mate. Good fella.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's curious. We're now. We've really got memories with these boys as they've become men. Like now they're starting to really have these long-term relationships, and they're starting to get engaged, and they're starting to get married. Some of them are starting to have their first, children. So it just adds more layers to the connection for them as Carlton people. But like for us, we don't know them personally for the most part, but we follow their story, we follow their journey so closely,
Yeah, and as I said, it's a case of now when those things happen in your life, it's like, okay, I've got to go. I've got to go hard for not only the club but for my family as well. I've got to make them proud too. So there's that little bit of added pressure.
For sure. Next up is Harry. An interesting case study with Harry. He kicked 45 goals, I believe it was, for the year. He had a stint out, hurt himself, came back. Obviously didn't reach the heights of the year before. Having Charlie back in the side was a different dynamic for the forward line. So maybe not as much supply towards him as what there was the year before. I think one of the most underrated things around Harry, well, there's two things. He puts in such detailed work into himself.
Yep.
That's one. And the second part is I think he's so much more of a team player than he actually gets recognized for.
That's a fair argument. Yeah, well, he's done what did he do? What does he do in the off season? The speed project running.
Project? Yeah.
I mean, it's funny. The more you put in, the more you get out. It's that's the old adage, really. But well, he's my favorite player at the club. I love him, and I think as much as Charlie had a chip on his shoulder coming into season 2023, with looking at Harry during as much as Charlie had a chip on his shoulder coming into 2022, looking at Harry in 2021 and not being able to get out on the field, I think Harry would almost be in the same mold where he's like, no, I'm the big boy up here. I'm the man who leads the line up here. I know it's not, whether that's to the team's detriment or not, but I think he's he's a player that would be looking back at last season, and I reckon he'd be disappointed with his back half of the year. That's what I think. He had moments last season where he just there's that little bit of the sook up, where it doesn't go his way, and rather than hitting up at the ball, he tries to get out the back and he tries to wrestle off his opponent and get hard, big man, mate, get tough. You're over 200 centimeters, you're 100 kilos, you're a bit, mate. Dominate that forward line. So I don't know about this around the body stuff as well. I mean, for me, it's whatever works. It doesn't really faze me either way, to be honest, mate. He knows how to kick goals, and it works more often than not for him. So it's not an issue for me.
I'm glad you said that. I was thinking about this the other day. For all the commentary, and everyone's entitled to their opinion, right?
Yeah.
It kind of reminded me of when I was playing footy, and like we had a real gunful forward at the club playing for the ones, and if he ever had a bad patch, no one would ever say anything to him about how to kick the ball.
Yeah.
Like, why? Like, for those that really push the issue of around the corner, what's the big deal? Like, he's the professional.
Yeah.
Harry's the one that knows what to do more than anybody else for Harry.
Yeah.
And if you look at the numbers, if you roll the numbers and you actually look at them and you isolate every single set shot, he kicks a lot more as a goal than what he misses when he takes the snap around the corner. There's that element. And I think I'm at a point now with Harry, probably similar to Cripps. He's at this point now where it's like, you know what? That man puts in so much work that who the fuck am I to say like what you should have said? Like Harry McKay, shut up, I'm there with him now. It's kind of like, all right, Harry, I know you put the work in. I know, like you look at his body, you look at like he just improves himself all the time. And I'm like, no, I don't have to worry about Harry getting the best out of Harry. I think he's good.
Yeah, I'm not. Again, as long as he's banging home goals, I think if he's starting to, if it's starting to become a plague and he's missing, but I think even he was saying when he did an interview with Fox Sports prior to one of the games last season, and he said like numbers wise, statistically, that when I go around the body, I actually kick more than I do, and numbers wise, it actually works better from a percentage point of view. So look, he's the man who's there to kick the goals. I'm not really fussed, and I'm not. not too worried about him, to be honest. More just, I think John Holder made a good point here. If there's a criticism on Harry, it's he stopped playing for the free kicks like he did for a time last year. That's one thing too. Stop getting your arms up. Stop it. I know they hold him, and I know they almost abuse him, defenders, really, because they can't go with him. But just play to the umpire's whistle.
I think it'll be this year. If it's not this year, it's next year. There's going to come a time, because we look at him and we obviously watch how harshly he's umpired. That's a big comment that he's made. And he gets smashed. Yeah. I feel like there's going to come a time, whether it's this year or next year, where he outgrows that lack of strength that he hasn't just reached just yet. I feel like he's going to reach a point with his body where he is going to be too big and too strong. As hard as they want to throw themselves at him, as much as they want to chop his arms, I just feel like there's going to come a moment where it's too much for them, for the defenders. And when that moment comes, I genuinely think he's adding 11 to 12 goals to whatever he kicks for the year, because he's just about to go there. He really is just about to go there with that strength.
Yeah, I think, like, from my perspective too, as I said, for me, he's my favorite player at the club. I love him. But I think he's eventually going to start to get what you're going to call the Harry free kicks, the ones where the umpires are looking for. He's not at that stardom phase yet, but he will get there. He will get there, and he'll start to get the crowd free kicks as well. So the umpires have just got to look for it. And you see it every week. He's being tugged by the jumper. He's having his arms pulled. He's getting held before the ball comes in. So eventually that'll turn for him. But he's also got to realise that if it's not going his way, then he's got to get on his bike, get up the ground, keep your leads up, continue to work hard too. And I think the big one for that too was Charlie Curnow last season against GWS up over there, when he didn't have the greatest of games in the first three quarters, but his work rate, he just kept leading up, and then eventually it worked out for him in the last term. So that's what Harry's got to look at.
Mm-hmm. Ugo with the $80 donation. Very kind. Thank you, mate. And he's asking, who's going to lead the goal kicking, Charlie or Harry?
Harry.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What makes you say Harry? I'm always curious around... Yeah, go.
Yeah, chip on the shoulder from last season. He had the meniscus last year, which, I mean, when you have surgery in season, it just ruins you. It really just ruins your momentum.
Yeah. I also don't know... I think Harry made a comment about this in one of his interviews towards the end of last year, where he said about him and Charlie, like, they haven't played that much footy together.
No.
Have we unlocked what it is with the two of them to get the best out of both of them? I don't think we have, and that's exciting.
No, they've only had one season together, and the one season they did have together last year was, McKay missed a month with the knee. So you can't underestimate that chemistry and cohesion. We saw it with. I mean, you saw it with the Socceroos. Cohesion is everything. I'm telling you, mate. Cohesion and chemistry is such an underrated facet, especially for the forward line. When you are the two making the play, and having to drag the defender with you and lead the play around and lead the forward line, that chemistry and cohesion, it's enormous too. And then they both play for each other, which is great. Neither of them gets in the way of each other. It's good competition. It's not the I'm better than you competition. It's the competition of, we need to both get to another standard, and we need to both continue to lift and kick goals for our club as well, and lead our forward line. So it's healthy competition up in that forward line. It's nice to have them. Very nice to have them. They're going to be very scary for opposition next season if they can go to another level.
That's something I'm grateful for as well. I think because there hasn't been a relationship breakdown, we don't think about it, but the fact that they both genuinely want the best for each other.
Correct.
And it's not a toxic competition. I mean, you want to be amongst the best. You want to, how are you going to get the best out of yourself? And we're really spoiled, touch wood, providing that they're both healthy. To have two Coleman medalist caliber forwards in one forward line is a real difference for us. I mean, I think, Geelong obviously have it. I'm trying to think. West Coast probably towards the end now. I mean, Josh Kennedy's gone, but they had it for so long. I'm trying to think how many other clubs have what we have in this forward line.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's a case too, if you go back and look at all these premiership teams from the last handful of years, is that these you can't have a scenario where 1 week it's Charlie kicking 4 and Harry doing nothing, and then Charlie doing nothing and then Harry kicking 4 or 5. It's got to be a case of 3 to 4 from each of them every game, and then the rest of the forwards get to work as well. That's what the best teams have had. You look at Geelong, Hawkins went to work, and then Stengel went to work, then Cameron went to work. Hawkins and Cameron together, both banging home goals. You look back at Richmond, Riewoldt and Lynch, both banging home goals during their premiership seasons as well. So, it's and Melbourne was much the same as well. Brown and Luke Jackson and those type of players as well. So, and Tom McDonald, you've got to get a spread out of both of those two as well, and both have to perform to equal levels throughout the game. So, 3 to 4 from each during the game is what you need. You can't have a scenario where one's hot and one's cold week in, week out. It just can't be that.
Yeah, certainly. What's the mix of who plays higher up the ground and who plays in the goal square for you? What's the best mix? Or is it just literally there is no formula?
No,
You just
no. Yeah, no, I don't think there is I mean, they would have a specific set for certain games, but I think it's more of a case of if one is not getting into the game, that bloke has to go up the ground. Get your hands on the pill, like what Franklin does for Sydney. Get up the ground, get moving, get on your bike as well. Charlie, I think, has the engine to do that. I think he is the one that would side on. Yeah, he's the player that would probably do that more often than what Harry would. But both are capable of doing so. You saw what Harry did against the Bulldogs last season, where he just continually presented up the line, hit up. And Charlie, they can both do it, which is it's a luxury to have. It's a luxury to have. But for me, I think Charlie's the one that would do it more often than not.
Yeah. All right. Well, there's another best 22 player.
Yep.
Here's another one. Mitch McGovern. The yearly Mitch McGovern what if conversation. He gets to the side, you fall in love with him, you realize how good he really is, and then he seems to just get injured. Yep. As soon as he's starting to reach this level where it's like, oh, there he is.
No, it's exactly right. It's the old The Godfather Part 3. Just when I thought I was out, they pulled me back in type of scenario, really, with him. And I think that's what everyone's going through right at this present time, January 16th. Important to the way we play, to the way the modern game is played, really. Reads the ball beautifully in the air. He's a very good intercept. He's a beautiful kick as well. And he's one of those players down back that's never afraid to take the corridor kick. He's never afraid to get a wriggle on. He's never afraid to get the ball moving along. And I think that was our downfall and to our detriment last season when he went out of the side. The ball movement at stages during the season across half back and through the back line was stagnant. And that really hurts us, really, really hurts us. When we're on the move, we're such a dangerous team. And he's a player that can really exploit opposition. And he's a player that can really get those scores on transition from the back half right up. That was something that really waned away towards the second half of the season. And that's what the premiership teams do. They're able to score off transition from the back half. So if he can, again, it's a matter of if he stays fit. There's no other way to look at it. At the moment, he looks in great nick. He hasn't missed a beat in the preseason, which is great. Whether or not he doesn't miss a beat when the whips get cracking in round one and onwards, who knows? But I think he's a player that if he does get a 4 to 5 week block under his belt, I think it might even be a good idea to just give him a rest for a week because maybe that's what his body needs. But again, it's a wait and see with him from a fitness perspective. You just hope they've got everything right with him. Hopefully his hamstring is okay. And again, if he stays fit, he's a very, very integral part of our back line.
Yeah. I mean, this is year 5 now. This is the 5th year of Mitch McGovern at the club.
18, 19, 20, 21, 22. Yeah, it is.
18 he was at the Crows. So 19.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yes.
19 was his first year with us. He played 16 games, then 12, then 5, and then 7 last year. So I will say a lot of credit should be given to him in the way he performed in the back line last year, even though it was a new role for him. He had a little bit of experience, in the early stages of his career, but for the most part, he was a forward option when he came to us. So there's that saying. I mean, good footballers just find a way to impact no matter where they are on the ground, and that's I think that's ultimately where frustration comes from. It comes from knowing he could be better. That's where frustration comes from. And then there's the ultimate unknown for us as fans is what goes on behind closed doors and how much work is being done away from the club and what are the little 1%ers that are being done to his body that are in his control. They're the question marks that I have. Like, what is the commitment above and beyond what's just required of you? Because ultimately that's how you become great. The great ones are the ones that do the extras. So that's where my curiosity with Mitch lies. Has he in the past, has he gotten a bit comfortable and not pushed himself as much as what he could have? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, and you can blame the strength and conditioning staff for what's happened with him and the hamstrings and the back and all those soft tissue injuries. But ultimately, it also has to come down to the individual and how he looks after himself and the extras that he does off the field and outside of the club as well. And I think that was something Voss alluded to in his speech at the BNF last year when he sort of said, go and do those extra recovery sessions, go and do that extra lap of the pool, go and do that extra bit of running that you might not have done in the off season. And it's another thing that we always refer to, you and I, that compound interest. Initially for the first little bit, you might not see it. You might only see very, very, very incremental improvement. But if you continually do it, when it does improve, it just explodes from a performance and output point of view. So he's one that needs to go down that path too. So he's another one that's looked, I mean, from what we've seen from the start of preseason till now, before Christmas when we went to the training sessions, that he seemed to be in as good a nick as he's ever been, really. So whether or not that leads to him being available more often than not, that's the big question. There's no denying his talent. He can play football. It's just he's a good footballer. It's as simple as that, really. It's just availability now for him, and maybe too. I think we've been, as much as the project, it's been a disappointment because if you look at, I mean, for a bloke we've paid so much for to be a key forward, for him to have to shift down back and change his career, like, it's great, but I mean, it still leaves a bit of a sour taste in the mouth as well. So, but I think there were little moments last season in the VFL when he came back where he was slung up forward for a little bit. So at least we do know we've got that flexibility with him as well if we need to go down that path too.
I will not forget that he is a beautiful set shot.
Sensational set shot. One
Probably
of our best.
the best at the club, yeah.
Yeah. I still think the intercepting halfback is the role for the clear role for him, and that's what Voss, and that's what the best clubs do. It's defined roles. Don't say, oh, he could be a half forward or he could be a key forward. No, you're an intercept defender. That's your role.
Yeah, I'm with you. And Giuseppe makes a good point as well. It's a contract year. I'm big on this. Love it or hate it. I've got to find the data, but I just feel like guys that are going into that contract year, they've got something to prove. Mitch now has a family. We spoke about it earlier. Really, ultimately, if he goes out and plays 22 games in 2023 and has the best season of his career, he literally gets himself a brand new, big, juicy contract again, just from one solid year. That's the type of player, that's the type of impact he has. That's how good he is.
Yep. Completely agree with you there. And I think it's going to have direct ramifications on the form of the next player we're going to talk about, just quietly.
Yes. So let's get into him. Tom Piccone, you kick us off, mate. Start this conversation right now.
Oh, well, I'll tell you what, the Sharks at Geelong are well and truly circling and have been for the last year, I think. So I think the Cattery are getting into his ear. He's the one thing that really raised my eyebrow, but Voss last season said he was going to be our number one ruckman in the future. That's where they saw his position lie at the club, and that I don't think they aimed on him playing or having as much a load as he did last season, but ultimately that's what he had to endure. And I think towards the back end of the year, he was absolutely cooked, really. But it is going to do great things for his development, I think. And he was a fine example of development being fast tracked for a young ruckman. I think him and Pitternet can definitely play together. And I think when they did play together, we saw our best football at the start of the season. Whether he plays that sort of third tall forward and then floats through the ruck as well, I think that's his role at the club. But tell you what, Geelong are circling. I think he's going to have a career best season if he stays out on the park. So contract year for him. I think we're going to see him go to another level, to be honest.
Yeah, so he was drafted in 2017. So what's that? 18, 19, 20, 22. So he's entering year 6. I tell you where my mind's gone with Tom De Koning and the whole discussion. So contract year, sped up his development. I think he's certainly going to have the best year of his career coming up, provided that he's healthy. Initially, my thought was, there's no way he's leaving. There's no way who in their right mind, who's been there from the beginning, would want to leave this now. Like, I mean, if he's so motivated to go play with Sam and be in Geelong because his family's there, like, is it that much of a pull? Maybe not. It might be. Is the money that much of a factor for it? Maybe will. I just believe, I have this underlying belief that once you're a Carlton Football Club player and you're playing regular football, you're in the starting 22, mate, your finances, your family, it's all looked after one way or another. So unless there's a footballing reason why he wouldn't want to be at the club, I don't know. My mind was like, there's no way he'd leave. No one in their right mind would leave because it's all set up for him to take over. Now I'm slowly starting to move towards the thought of, all right, well, we do have some bad contracts on the list, whether we want to admit it or not. People don't like talking about salary cap, but the reality is you have a finite amount of resources. You allocate too much to one, someone's going to miss. It's just, it's economics. So if he was going to leave, if it was going to happen, if this is the last year of Tom De Koning, whatever, I'm sure he's going to put his best foot forward and have the best. It's in his best interest one way or another, whether he stays or goes, to have the best year of his career.
Carlton lives on if he's there or not come the end of next year. But I'm trying not to look that far ahead because, I mean, the one thing you have to realize as well is that the best football clubs, what they do is they create an environment where they get to a point where players are not even tempted to leave for dollars. That's what the best football clubs do. Players are not tempted to leave for dollars. You need to create an environment at a football club where people want to stay and they are happy to stay and they want to be there. They want their family to be there. They want to be there themselves every single day, regardless of what the salary is or what they're being paid. Because, I mean, ultimately it's a materialistic thing, and how much tangible and intangible benefit that gives you, who knows? Like, you can't, every individual is different in that regard and what they weight as factors for success. But from my point of view, Carlton, this is a Carlton scenario here. Have you created a good enough environment for a young man like Tom De Koning to not consider going to another club to get paid arguably more money, just say for argument's sake, it's more money, and make a decision based on, no, I think I'm going to get more success at this club? That's what Carlton has to create. That's the environment, and this is the perfect scenario for it because, our salary cap apparently is starting to get a little bit tight, but that's what Carlton has to look at. That's what the board has to look at. That's what executives have to look at. This is going to be the perfect example, exhibit A, of if a bloke is being courted by arguably the most successful club of AFL in the modern era since the 2000s, can we create a good enough environment for him to stay? And if not, it's on the blokes above him, period.
No, I'm with you on that. Kind of reminds me of the AFLW program in a sense, where it was like, oh, well, the salary cap increased and we lost all these players.
Oh, yeah.
Like, no, well, what environment, what culture was built?
Yeah.
What environment was built? There's also the reality of Tom. Now, I'm a big fan of Tom, big fan of his potential, but the reality is this. Until he does the thing, he hasn't done it. Has he proven that he can carry the load for a full season as a ruckman? Not yet. Has he proven himself as a forward option? I would say not yet. So there's still layers to come. Yes, I think everyone believes in him because he's a great character. He works hard. He improves himself and all of that. And so you kind of, you have this sense that it's coming. But as we sit right now on the 16th of January, it hasn't happened yet. He hasn't done it yet.
Exactly right. It's just those are the cold hard facts, really. I think for him now as well, it's just, can he take the onus of being, the number one ruck, which is what Voss said he was going to be as well. And even to go back on the point about him staying because of the environment too, it's got to be a case of, does he want to stay? Because I think that there's also a case too where you stay in the environment because it's comfortable. And it's easy to get $1. You don't have to hit a stand, and it's like, well, why do I have to move to a club? I'm going to get the exact same money a year. I don't have to work as hard. So that's another thing too. But I think the fact that he hasn't proven it from round one all the way through to the end of the season is something that he has to tick off too. So I think he will this season, just based on what we saw in his elevation last year. But I'm really intrigued. And you know what's going to happen this year. Every single article, Geelong are courting him. It's going to be all about his contract this year. And, we saw Kane Corns already say he's $1 million a year player. So those articles are already going to start to come out. And the market's going to inflate the value.
Correct. And I mean, I really do agree with your point around making sure we have an environment in which the money isn't an issue. I think where we've maybe shot ourselves in the foot in that regard is we have paid players way too much what they should be paid.
Oh, yeah.
And so it's all fine to say, Tom, listen, we want to create a good environment where money's not a big issue. But he looks over and he sees Jack Martin, he sees Zach Williams, he sees Mitch McGovern, he sees these types who we invest heavily in because we wanted to bring them into the club. We needed names at the time or whatever the case may be. And I mean, he's a human being. So I don't know. If this is the last season of Tom De Koning, let it be the best season of his career. But I'm still, at this point, I'm still very hopeful. I just think it doesn't make sense to leave Carlton right now. Like, fair enough, leave in 2019, leave then, but now, like, it's about to happen. Like, it really is.
Yeah. Oh, the season will define what happens with him, and that's just point in case. Really, is that if we hit the 8, hit it with momentum, put ourselves in a position to contend for the premiership, there's no reason why he should leave unless the contract from another club is enormous. But I don't think it'll be the case. I think it'll be, and I think this is what we're all hoping, is that we get into a point where Carlton's competing for a flag now. Why wouldn't he stay? As you said.
Yeah, like, why can't, if he's going to be an option forward, as a resting forward that plays in the ruck and chops out, and him and Pitternet are in the same side, give me 25 goals. 25 goals.
Yep.
Doesn't need to kick 40. Just give me a goal a game on average.
Yep. No, it's a fair point.
So, but I love Tom, and I hope he stays. So if he's watching, stay, please. Don't go. Fuck, I'm going to go to Geelong for. Come on, man.
Make them good again.
So that's Tom, and that's the show. That's it for tonight. Now, you're on air tonight.
Yes.
You're on SEN. What's happening tonight? What's on the agenda?
There's Premier League action to get through. A little bit of AFL talk, a little bit of NFL talk as well. The American football, the NFL is in playoff mode at the moment, so the wild card rounds are happening. There's some NRL news to get through, Oz Open. So there's plenty happening, and then the AFL will start to ramp up in the next couple of weeks, of course, as all the big names start to make their way back into the studio. So 11 p.m. tonight, so in 3 hours' time, overnight crowd, get on it, SEN. And onwards and upwards. It's going to be a big 2023 for the station. Big 2023 coming up for me personally as well, which is great. And hopefully it's a nice one for the Blues come this season as well, to make my job a lot easier.
Absolutely.
Either way, it's going to be great.
It will be. I mean, it's also a big year for the jumper punch. So I was talking to Rocco. And he sent me through a little clip he wants me to play
Yes,
tonight.
yes.
So there's a video premiering tomorrow on the channel,
Yep,
on
yep.
the Jumper Punch channel. So those of you watching right now, if you haven't subscribed to the Jumper Punch YouTube channel, get on there, get it done. And I'm going to play this little clip from a very iconic interview that was done.
Yes.
This one here one day.
Yes.
He's had a few. He's come out of the footy club at Carlton, Royal Parade, straight into the medium strip.
That was you.
That wasn't me.
Your purple car.
Yeah.
That was you.
Was that me?
When I loaded that up earlier today, I was crying from laughter.
I'll tell you what, they can tell the stories, those two, Alex Marcoux and Wayne Hales. That was probably one of the best things we've done on the Jumper Punch. One of the best things I've done in my football following life. I think it was fantastic to go back and rehash that. That was an interview we did. I think it might have been, was it before the season or may have been early in the season last year?
I think it was early in the season. We were playing good footy when you interviewed them, I think.
Yeah. So they were great fun to talk to. So we're re-uploading that onto the Jumper Punch YouTube page, which we've got over 1,000 subscribers for. So thanks to everyone for getting us over the line for that particular milestone too, which is fantastic. We've got big things to come. We not going to announce them yet because we're going to do them on a more official basis, but the show will be back end of Jan. Haven't locked in a specific date yet, but keep your eye out for it.
Wow.
So there's a little teaser for you.
Before you know it, the schedule, the Carlton schedule, the Blue Abroad schedule, it kicks off, and then we're just back to normal again for 22 weeks.
We are indeed. Hopefully it's a big one for us this season. I wanted to just give a shout out that Sisterly Creations. Candor gave us, I think his sister and his little nieces were making these little Carlton wristbands on Twitter. I think Pommy and I got a hand of those. Got our hands on those. So thanks to them for organising that. So Candor. I think it's Candor 100 on Twitter. CANDOUR _100. So shout out to him. So Carlton community's back up and about. Open training too. Tez,
Wednesday.
Don't forget.
9:30. 9:30. I'll be there for a good chunk of it, and then I'll duck out. But looking forward to seeing everybody. Looking forward to starting to get the juices flowing, and 1 week closer.
We are 1 week closer. It's funny. We always say it. It's when the season ends, it's like, oh God. But as soon as the turn of the second half of pre-season's here, I mean, February next month, we're going to be playing practice games.
Yep.
Fire
it's
up.
on for young and old. All right, ladies and gents, thanks for tuning in. Paolo, thanks for joining. And we'll
Thank
see
you very
soon.
much, mate. Have a good night.
See ya.